Local Justice, presented by Elrod Bobe Law Firm, serving our community since 1980. Here's your host, attorney Ben Leader.
Welcome to Local Justice. I'm attorney Ben Leader, and today I'm honored to be joined by somebody who's going to help us pull back the curtain on something that impacts every person here in York County, and that's public safety and emergency response. Joining us is David Garner, who is the Assistant County Manager for York County. David gets to oversee the fire services, emergency management, 911 communications, and the county's IT and GIS systems. Essentially, this is the infrastructure that helps keep our community safe when things go wrong. With more than a decade in local government, including serving as county director in Abbeville County and having advanced training through Clemson University and the International City and County Management Association, David brings a unique mix of leadership, preparedness, and modernization to York County. David, we're honored to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ben. Happy to be here.
Would love for you to start out by just telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, kind of where you grew up, and what ultimately led you towards this path of being involved in emergency management.
Sure. So I'm originally from Anderson, South Carolina, one of the few native South Carolinians that seems to be around here.
That's right.
Grew up there, and really emergency services, public safety was my kind of family's background. So my grandfather was a career firefighter. Great-grandfather. My grandfather was a volunteer firefighter. My uncle was a paramedic. And so it kind of just lended itself naturally to me and moving in that direction. So started off as a volunteer firefighter in Anderson County, and from there became a paramedic. And I worked as a paramedic for a little over 10 years. And then I had the pleasure of working for the State Emergency Management Division. While I was there, I finished my graduate degree at Clemson University. Probably really didn't know exactly what I was going to do after that. I probably always envisioned a career in emergency management, but some opportunities presented themselves in local government and in administration. So I was a town manager and then the county director of Abbeville County. So really public safety has always been in my background, but my experience and career path led me to moving into county administration and management. And then moving to York County, that opportunity presented itself, and it really feels like almost a perfect blending, coming home of my background, where I've had direct field level experience in public safety and emergency services, but also the administrative side of it. So when I was able to marry the two of those together on a very intimate level in York County, jumped at the opportunity. Very blessed and fortunate to be here, and proud to be part of the team that we're developing and have here.
That's a fascinating background, and just curious, how old were you when you first started that volunteer firefighter?
Yeah, so officially I was 15 years old.
Wow.
When I started, but just by nature of the volunteer service, it's very family oriented. So really from the day that I came out, my grandparents, my mother and I lived with my grandparents, they raised me. So I was in the fire department from probably the time that I could start walking around. So even when I was in my very formative years, always looked up to those very strong men in the fire service, and they helped raise me just as much as anybody else. So officially 15, but even before that, I was one of those bratty kids running around the fire department that everyone says, "Oh, there he is again."
Well, I know there's a lot of camaraderie within those groups and those organizations, and so I'm sure they were happy to kind of bring you up in that environment.
Absolutely, very much family oriented, and definitely who I am today is attributed to some of the giants that I got to stand on their shoulders when I was younger.
And I think one of the most unique facts about your role here now and your background is that you have actually done all these jobs that now part of your role involves managing and the overall operations of. And I think it's such good perspective to have, to know that you've done the things that we're asking others to do, and you've seen a lot of those challenges firsthand, and just what EMT and volunteer firefighters have to see and deal with on a daily basis can be extremely heavy and a lot tougher than most people probably realize.
Yeah, I've always felt, you hear it frequently from the field that administration is just out of touch and they've forgotten what it's like. So I've always prided myself on being very intent and intentional about staying in connections with those field level personnel and never forgetting what it's like to actually be in their shoes. So being able to be their voice, on a level that's really the decision-making aspect of the county. Always want to keep touch with the roots of that, knowing what it's like for those field level responders and how our decisions every day impact them,
right.
And making sure that we don't find ourselves out of touch with that.
That's spot on, and you know, just being able to relate to what they deal with every day and what it's like to be those boots on the ground, it makes you probably think a little more about some of the things we're asking of them.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, that's great. Well, just to touch on your role here, I think your official title is Assistant County Manager.
Yep.
You've got kind of a subset of specialties that fall under your umbrella. Could you just kind of briefly explain what your role encompasses and what all you oversee in that role?
Yeah, so York County is a county manager form of government. So the county manager is hired by the county council. But really with the number of departments that any county has, but especially York County, that's very daunting for one person. So under the county manager, there are 3 assistant county managers, I being one of them. And each one of us have a portfolio. Mine obviously focuses more on public safety and also IT and GIS. But I also liaise with the sheriff's office, the coroner's office, our EMS hospital providers. So that gives our assistant county managers the ability to work directly on a day-to-day basis with those departments, rather than having to split and divide our time across so many departments that it just kind of gets lost in translation. So it's a really very receptive and transparent form of government. That way we're able to support those departments on a daily basis and really give them guidance and direction in their departmental strategic plans and their future. And it's very well designed to make sure that no departments fall through the cracks and everyone's voice is equally heard.
That's great, and it sounds like there's a lot of collaboration that goes on between your role and a lot of other roles, and you know, having the ability to really hone in and focus on the public safety piece, I think is a real benefit.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a quick break from our sponsors, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about what happens behind the scenes, you know, when an emergency does hit York County, and, you know, what residents may need to know about using 911 and better preparing themselves for crises. So appreciate your time here joining us on the show, and appreciate all the viewers tuning in today. We'll be right back with David Garner and more local justice here shortly.
As soon as I contacted Elrod Pope, they handled everything. Without Elrod Pope's help, I'd have been paying hospital bills for years to come. Elrod Pope just took the stress and they put it on their table and took it off mine.
Coming to Elrod Pope, I didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of. It put me in a real calm state because I had someone on my side. I knew that I was in the right hands. It felt great.
We know the type. You like to start early, finish late, make lemon squares, and make payments to the college fund from anywhere in the house. We know you rely on Comporium for the things you rely on most, like a view of the backyard. That's just a bunny, and hundreds of channels to watch, whenever you want. So you may think of us as just your internet company, but we're more like the I didn't know they could do all that company. Comporium, always ready.
Coke Zero is now Coke Zero Sugar, with great Coke taste. Some people were excited to hear the news, some were skeptical. So we're not gonna have the star of the show you're watching come out and say, "You'll love it." No special jingle written by this week's hottest pop star. No famous internet celebs who happen to be holding the label just so. Okay, maybe just one little pour shot. The only thing that will make you believe Coke Zero Sugar has great Coke taste is trying it yourself. Ice cold Coke Zero Sugar. Try one today.
Being there for someone in their time of need is what Green Funeral Home has done compassionately for 4 generations. It's a privilege we take very seriously.
We believe each life should be honored and remembered by family and friends. Whether you choose traditional burial in our chapel or another venue, or cremation provided by our on-site crematory, we will help guide you through each step to ensure your needs are met.
We are also available to discuss pre-planning. Peace of mind that you have helped your loved one by making those difficult decisions.
When the need arises, our family is here for your family.
Welcome back to Local Justice. I'm attorney Ben Leader with Elrod Pope Law Firm, and today I'm honored to be joined by David Garner, Assistant County Manager of York County, who oversees a lot of the public safety efforts that go on behind the scenes to keep everybody informed and safe in our communities. David, thank you again for being here. Want to pull back the curtain a little bit and just have you walk us through kind of what happens behind the scenes when there is a major emergency in York County, and whether it's severe weather, a catastrophic accident of some sort, or a natural disaster. Who all is involved in those conversations and decisions, and how quickly are y'all having to respond to those types of things?
Yeah, so it's not just the forward-facing, when you call 911, the response happens. There's so much planning and preparedness that goes into that. And really, an ounce of preparedness is worth a pound of cure. So really, particularly in emergency management, but really in all our departments, probably what they spend most of their time doing is preparing and planning for the potentials. So particularly when we have a notification of an event, usually winter weather or hurricanes, things, there's others, whether it's terrorism or some man-made disasters that just happen. We can't really prepare enough for being ready for that to happen. We have to kind of stand ready. But generally what we're doing on a daily basis is monitoring. And then as we kind of get weather forecast, as we know that there's the potential for an event, particularly weather related, we start to lean forward. So that's where we begin our preparedness efforts. We start looking at staffing, making sure that we have our equipment caches are fully up to date, and start leaning forward into that response, just kind of in that ready state. It's kind of like the military,
Sure.
They start to lean forward as they know that they're going to activate or something's going to happen. So it's very much so the same in emergency response and preparedness. Obviously though, on a daily basis when you call 911, someone's going to respond, and there's so much that happens in the background to prepare for that. And that's really our daily job, is to stay prepared so that when the time comes that we execute at a high level. So there's so many offices, and it's not just emergency management or 911 or even fire and EMS that are doing that. We have so many community partners. There's community organizations, the state, the federal government. We're all really partners, and there's numerous legs that really support that entire response on a daily basis.
And one of the interesting things you said to me is that the work really starts long before these disasters ever come into the picture, and the training and the policies and the procedures y'all kind of have to follow and really make, just instinctual at that point. That's where probably the hard work is, and when the time comes, hopefully you are ready and the
right.
pieces are already in place and y'all know what to do.
Yeah, it's impossible to plan for every eventuality, but you try to remove as much of that guesswork as you can and go down every path and rabbit hole that you can possibly think of. And definitely our plans help guide and dictate what that response looks like in the time, because when it happens, you don't have time to prepare. That's the reaction point. So as long as we have adequate plans and preparedness and drills and training are a piece of that, then when it comes time, everyone knows their position. Everyone, it's kind of like a football play. Everyone knows exactly what their function is to execute at that time, and then it becomes second nature at that point.
Now, does your role involve also working with like the public information offices to get the word out to the community? Is that a big part of what y'all focus on too? Absolutely.
So we have a public information office as well, and that staff works directly with emergency management particularly, but even fire, 911, our EMS providers, to begin putting out messages of preparedness. We do winter weather messaging as it leads up to it. We may or may not have a winter weather event at any given time, but we want to communicate the preparedness message and things that families or individuals can do ahead of that, so that if it were to happen, that they're prepared for it. So our public information office does a great job of supporting that with us. And then if the time comes where something does happen, they're a very key component of that. They call it a joint information center, of receiving phone calls, controlling rumors, monitoring social media, because sometimes the best way that we find out information is social media. Sure. and kind of the rumor mill is what they call it. We can track down if something is in fact true that maybe we haven't heard yet or hasn't made its way to us, or better yet, if we can put out accurate information to correct and dispel rumors. They play a vital role in all of that.
And today more than ever, it seems like there's just a constant barrage of false information out there, and it's getting harder and harder to decipher what's real and what's not, whether it's news stories or even videos nowadays. It's so much harder than it used to just get a clear, unified message out.
Yes. And we definitely want to make sure that as people are looking for a valid and trustworthy source of information, that they know that the county and all of our partners are that trusted voice, that what we're saying is accurate, that they can put a lot of faith and full confidence behind what we're saying and take it to heart, and that they don't have to go and find or make up their own information. So
Sure.
we really want to lean forward with as much information as possible so that people can continuously come back to us. And that even happens on a daily basis, whether it's utility outages. It's not just emergency response. We want to be able to be that trusted voice in the community. Otherwise, people will make up their own stories, and then you can't control the validity of it.
Sure. And what is, from a community standpoint, what is the best way that community members can, stay updated and receive the quickest and accurate updates directly from the source, from y'all? Are there social media groups you would recommend them following? What's the best way to stay updated?
Absolutely. So we have numerous methods. We have our social media channels, and we're on all the major platforms. We're on Facebook, Twitter, X, LinkedIn, Next Door Neighbor. And then we also have notification systems, so they can register for notifications through our emergency notification platform, through emergency management and public information. So we really make sure that we cast a wide net to hit as many people as we can, because the older generation doesn't rely as much on cell phones or internet, so we need to be able to access them with landlines or weather radios. But the younger generation largely doesn't have that, so we have to be able to connect with them through text messaging, social media, or phone calls on cell phones. So we really try to be multifaceted in our approach to that.
Right, I think that's great. You're reaching the people wherever they may reside, whether it's Facebook or cell phone or landlines. So y'all do a good job of getting the message out. We're going to take another quick break from our sponsors, and then we'll talk a little bit more about technology in the last segment, because I know that's something you're very passionate about. Absolutely. And I know that a lot goes on behind the scenes with the technology you'll have to adapt to and utilize. And so we'll look at modern systems and how they're making y'all's responses, faster and more efficient, and look forward to continuing the conversation. And thank you again for your time, and thank you to the viewers for joining us. And we'll be right back with David Garner and more local justice here shortly.
As soon as I contacted Elrod Pope, they handled everything. Without Elrod Pope's help, I'd have been paying hospital bills for years to come. Elrod Pope just took the stress and they put it on their table and took it off mine.
Coming to Elrod Pope, I didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of. It put me in a real calm state because I had someone on my side. I knew that I was in the right hands. It felt great.
At Palmetto Pride, we know we have a choice. The choice for a cleaner South Carolina. And it's an easy one at that. Don't litter. No grand gestures or heroic efforts here, but the outcome still has monumental impacts. When it comes to our state, every choice counts and every action matters. From the great outdoors to parks next door, from Main Street to your street. All it takes is a little bit of pride to keep South Carolina beautiful.
Welcome back to Local Justice. I'm attorney Ben Leader from Elrod Pope Law Firm, and today I'm honored to be here with David Garner, the Assistant County Manager of York County, who does a lot behind the scenes to help keep the community informed and safe. David, thank you again for being with us. David's graciously sharing his time and insights on kind of what goes on behind the scenes within the public safety realm, and he sees a lot that the community may not necessarily realize in terms of the work and the time and effort that goes into just keeping everybody updated and informed and safe. And so one of the things I'd like to briefly hit on is some of the misconceptions people may have about emergency response or preparedness, and also the 911 use, and whether you may be able to touch on emergency versus non-emergency, and any advice you could give on what folks should do if they're in a position where they're trying to figure out, is this something I call 911 on, or is there a better, less formal option I should look at?
Sure, that's a great question, and it's really situation dependent. All of our dispatchers are some of the most well-trained and professional dispatchers that I've come across. And one thing that the public really should know is they're going to ask you a lot of questions. When you call 911, they're really going to ask you a lot of in-depth questions to really fully comprehend what the emergency is and to best get the appropriate resource there. So while it may seem frustrating, particularly if you're in the heat of an emergency, why are they asking me all these questions and not just sending someone? There is someone coming. From the time that they get that first call, they usually start putting units in motion depending on what the call is. But they continue to ask questions to make sure it's the appropriate response, it's the appropriate unit that's coming, or if it possibly needs to escalate to something much larger. Sometimes it seems very frustrating of why are they asking me these questions, but it's really so that we can fully give guidance on what you should do, what protective actions, or if there's anything, treatments or otherwise that you should be doing in the time, or more importantly, that we can make sure that the correct resources is en route and getting there.
That's a great point, and we deal with a lot of car accidents in our line of work, and so we routinely have to listen to the 911 call recordings, and I hear all the time people getting frustrated and saying, please just send somebody out, and they think that the dispatcher is just asking questions right. to wait to respond when somebody's already en route at that point.
Yeah, that definitely happens at the same time. So in the background, the person that you're talking to, the call taker, has already given that information over to a dispatcher, and they have units headed to you, but the call taker is really there to be that lifeline for the person calling to get as much information as they can, to give any interventions, if there's anything, possibly hazards that you didn't say in your first request, that they need to let responders know they'd be coming into. So there's definitely more things happening in the background than the person just sitting on the phone realizes.
That's right, and I mean we routinely find just critical information and evidence in those calls too, right. That's where you're getting the truth right out of the gate, and what people are immediately perceiving and seeing and hearing at the scene, and so a lot of times you end up finding answers to what happened within those call recordings too.
Yeah, and there's a lot of responder safety built in there as well, because the last thing that we want to do is send responders into an unsafe situation where they may find themselves that this should have been a law enforcement response first, or vice versa, that law enforcement gets there and realizes, oh wow, this is an EMS or fire response, and now that process has been delayed. So all of those questions lead into making sure that the correct resource gets there at the right time.
That's right. Each question individual may seem odd at the time, but when you look at the big picture, there's a rhyme and reason to all
Absolutely.
of it. That's great, and as far as the growth in York County, I can only imagine that adds a constraint on the dispatchers too. Are y'all seeing an increase in 911 calls that kind of correlates with the growth of the population?
Yeah, year over year we continue to tick up. Particularly we have an aging population as well, so while we're getting younger and a lot of people are moving to York County, particularly with our proximity to the Charlotte metro area, we still have an aging population. So we really have kind of two sets of the community that we're trying to be responsive to, and that continues to escalate. So the county, one of our most important things that we're doing every year is making sure that our services are growing with the growth of the county, so that we can keep up and adequately respond and protect the public.
Right. It's easy to realize you need more help when it's too late, but trying to predict it and forecast it along the way is a challenge.
It is.
And as far as technology goes, have you seen anything like with AI or any of the other new kind of innovations that are out there that are game changers for public safety or management, or are y'all seeing much use of that?
Absolutely. So we definitely have technology that integrates AI, and none more so than our EMS dispatch and posting software. It utilizes AI and also some historical data, and it's really crazy. Within anywhere from a 90 to a 98% accuracy, it can guess where the next call for service is going to be.
Wow.
And what it does with that is it can actually move EMS and fire resources around and stage them in an area where it knows with a high degree of likelihood where that next call is going to be. That's technology that we didn't have 20, 30 years ago. And so to be able to, it's more efficient. It's very transparent for the public to know what's happening. So when you see an ambulance pull out of a station or a fire truck and that they're moving and they're not going lights and sirens, they may just be moving into a position where they know the next call is likely going to occur. That's technology that we harness and use on a daily basis, and it makes a difference. Even if there's someone headed to a call and then one comes in closer, 20 years ago, it would have to rely on human judgment to realize and say, oh, they're about to pass a more serious call.
Wow.
But now our technology can actually notify that and say, hey, this truck is actually closer to this. You need to divert them and send this other ambulance to a lesser acuity call. And that's something that we're seeing, that'll make its way even more so into the fire service and law enforcement as well. So not just technology and AI, but using data and data sets over our historical trends to know where we should focus our efforts at.
And the more data I'm sure y'all are able to obtain and put into that system, the better it's going to keep getting, and
Absolutely.
the more accurate you're going to have it. So that's fascinating, and glad to hear that y'all are adapting well to the technology that's out there and using it to provide real benefit.
Absolutely.
Just to kind of bring things in for Landon, again, thank you for your time here today. Looking ahead, what would you say your top priorities are for strengthening public safety here in York County?
Yeah, so we have a lot going on right now, and a lot of it's happening in the background that the public probably doesn't hear a lot about. But we're looking at strengthening our EMS partnerships with our hospital providers. We really want to add more resources into that community, but also be more efficient in their use. We have an effort right now with our county fire departments and our fire service where we're seeking to unify those. One of the things that I've said repeatedly in our meetings is, wherever you live in the county, whatever your zip code is, it shouldn't dictate what level of service you get. So what we're really having an eye towards in the future is making sure that no matter where you live in York County, you can rely on the same level of service, the same standard of care at any given time, regardless of what your zip code is. And breaking down those barriers, when you travel across the county, you pass imaginary boundaries and district lines, but you need to know that there's that exact same level of response and service is going to be there no matter where you're at in York County. And then as we just continue to move into the future, we'll keep innovating and make sure our staffing and our equipment are appropriate. We're very blessed to be in York County. We're a very fortunate county with the resources that we do have, so that we're not having to just get what we can get by with. We've actually got the capability to secure nice equipment, to keep it up to date, to keep it maintained in a very modern fashion. And the public should know that we take that very seriously.
I love that. That's fantastic. And you mentioned that we're lucky to have that in York County. I think York County is also fortunate to have folks like you involved in the leadership and really guiding the ship behind the scenes. And again, really appreciate you joining us today. So much of what you do does go on behind the scenes and not necessarily in the public eye. But I think it's important work that is critical to keeping us safe and allowing us to continue to grow and have the appeal that's always brought people to York County remain for years to come. So it does make an enormous difference here in the community when people really need it the most. So thank you, David, for joining us. Thank you to the viewers for tuning in to another episode of Local Justice. We'll see you next time and hope everyone stays safe out there.
As soon as I contacted Elrod Pope, they handled everything. Without Elrod Pope's help, I'd have been paying hospital bills for years to come. Elrod Pope just took the stress and they put it on their table and took it off mine.
Coming to Elrod Pope, I didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of. It put me in a real calm state because I had someone on my side. I knew that I was in the right hands. It felt great.
Kidney disease is becoming more and more prevalent, especially with diabetes and hypertension. My training with kidney disease helps me to talk to patients and guide them through the steps that they can take, the changes that they can make into their lifestyles. And we have a dedicated team of providers, including dietitians and pharmacists that we work with to educate patients towards achieving that.
We know the type. You like to start early, finish late, make lemon squares, and make payments to the college fund from anywhere in the house. We know you rely on Comporium for the things you rely on most, like a view of the backyard. That's just a bunny, and hundreds of channels to watch, whenever you want. So you may think of us as just your internet company, but we're more like the I didn't know they could do all that company. Comporium, always ready.
From my first watch I purchased as a teenager, which still runs today, to the diamond ring I surprised my wife with, which she still talks about today. A gift from Norman Hagee is as good as it gets. Whether it's elegant timepieces by Bulova, Caravel, and Bel Air, or ornamental ironwork-inspired Southern Gates collection, or dazzling fine jewelry. A gift from Hagee is backed by over 60 years of family-owned and operated experience. Norman Hagee Jewelers, for gifts as good as it gets.